أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you for coming out to this lecture. Inshallah, this is going to be a series of lectures, lectures that I'll be doing at this place, at this time. This place meaning this link, or on Facebook Live if you're tuning in from Facebook Live. The lecture series will be on different topics every single time. Today, what we'll be talking about, inshallah, is the life of Ayyub alayhi salam, some reflections from his life, particularly because he was someone who was afflicted with a very serious illness. And reflecting upon his life, alayhi salam, should give us a little bit of perspective of how we should, if we are in a situation where some of us are sick, especially the time where COVID-19 has made many people sick, and we ask Allah to keep all of us safe and all our families safe. It is important for us to have a little bit of a discussion about how the prophets of Allah went through and coped with sickness. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that أشد الناس بلاء الأنبياء ثم الأمثل فالأمثل, that the people who go through the most intense difficulties are the prophets. ثم الأمثل فالأمثل, and then after that, it is according to the people who resemble the prophets the most, meaning their level of iman is similar to the iman of the prophets. So they go through similar difficulties as the prophets did, and that is done not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way, shape or form wants to take revenge or does not approve of who we are. In fact, the prophets were the most approved of all people. Their actions were the most approved of all actions. They are, of course, the best of people. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested them because the Prophet said a person is tested according to the amount of faith they possess. And that is something that we learn because when we are people who are of faith, we are people who believe, then inevitably we will be tested by Allah as a means to see how true is that claim of faith. The claim of faith that we believe in Allah and the last day, how true is it? That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, among other reasons, tests us. He also provides a test as an opportunity. This seems maybe a little strange, but He provides the test to us as an opportunity for us to get closer to our Lord and for us to demonstrate the best of ourselves. Maybe the kind of resolve that we didn't even know that we had ourselves, but to demonstrate that level of resolve, and thus through that resolve and patience, we ascend into paradise or levels of paradise. We rise in paradise in ways that otherwise we wouldn't have risen. We of course don't desire tests. We don't desire calamity. We don't desire affliction. That is not what the Prophet ﷺ taught us. The Prophet ﷺ taught us to pray for good health, pray for good health and well-being. He told us to pray for that. Sallallahu al-afwa wal-afiyah. Ask Allah for good health, ask Allah for well-being. But if we are tested through sickness, if we are tried by having somebody in our family being afflicted by a sickness, that is now Allah's test for us. And now how we respond to this will determine our ranks in paradise, and will determine what we end up how we end up dealing with it, and then also how much ajr we can gain from it. So that's just a small introduction. In the Quran, we have many prophets, and their stories are mentioned in the Quran in many places. One of the prophets who is mentioned in the Quran is Ayyub alayhi salam. And Ayyub alayhi salam, his story is particularly pertinent because he was somebody who went through a very difficult situation, the likes of which that if anybody goes through, it would seriously shake them. But Ayyub alayhi salam demonstrated exemplary patience, extremely exemplary in the way he coped with his sickness, coped with his losses, remained thankful while losing, remained grateful to Allah while things around him were taken away from him. That is one of the most difficult things to do, to remain grateful to Allah while we are under duress, while it seems like everything around us is collapsing, to be not just patient, but actually a level above patience, to be thankful and grateful at that point shows exactly what a believer, the best of what a believer can represent. And that is what Ayub alayhi salam represented. So I'm going to, inshallah, share his story with you. I'm going to share a little bit of his biography, who he was, alayhi salam. Also, a little bit about uh, some mistakes that he made, because he made a little bit of, like, there was a couple, there was one slip up that he had as he was afflicted by calamity and difficulty. And that is an important lesson for us, because human beings were prone to making mistakes, all of us, in fact. Uh, and in moments of duress, in moments of uh, trial, we are even more, we are even more susceptible to making mistakes and having errors. Um, and the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it and the lessons that are in it for us, I will discuss that as well. Okay, Ayyub alayhi salam, let me actually share with you the passage from the Quran that describes his story. Everybody can hear me okay? Like, people online can just maybe type yes or no if you're on Zoom, if you are on Facebook. I don't know, can somebody type yes or no? I think I have enabled chatting radio. Nobody's typing. Okay, well, that's okay. Okay, well, no problem. I will continue. I'm going to assume that since you are all here, you can all listen to what I'm saying, inshallah. All right. So, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about our Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam? Let me share the screen and show you something. Thank you, Sister Asia. Appreciate that. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay. This is from Surah Anbiya, Surah number 21, ayah number 83. Okay. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وأيوب إذ نادى ربه أني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين. Remember Job when he called on us, or when he called on his Lord, saying, I have been afflicted with great distress, but you are the most merciful of the merciful. فاستجبنا له فكشفنا ما به من ضر وآتيناه أهله ومثلهم معهم رحمة من عندنا وذكرى للعابدين. We heard his prayer and relieved his suffering. We restored to him his family, doubling their number as an act of our grace and as a reminder for the worshippers. This is the passage from the Quran that describes Ayyub alayhi salam, one of the two places where his story is expanded upon. I'll share the second part, or the second place. Surah Sad is where we find that. I'll share that with you in a little bit. Okay, Ayyub alayhi salam, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ. Ayyub alayhi salam, it is described by Ibn Kathir, and biography is provided to us by the scholars of tafsir like Ibn Kathir and Al-Qurtubi. So Al-Qurtubi quotes Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas is one of the great scholars of the Sahaba. He is the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was dubbed the Tarjumanul Quran, the one who will provide the interpretation of the Quran by the Prophet ﷺ himself. So he is a very, very important figure in our history. Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhuma says, "Summiya Ayyubu li'annahu aba ila Allah ta'ala fi kulli hal." He describes his name. His name is Ayyub in Arabic. In English, the biblical name is Job, spelled as Job, Job, but pronounced as Job. In Arabic, Abdullah bin Abbas provides etymology for his name. What does his name mean? This is a part of study of the prophets of Allah, and actually part of study of everything. Like, what does the name of a particular thing mean? And is there a relationship of that thing to their name? So Ayyub alayhi salam, he says, is called as such because لِأَنَّهُ آبَ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى فِي كُلِّ حَالٍ, because he returned back to Allah in all times. Meaning he turned back to Allah in repentance. He would turn to Allah asking for his help. So this constant referring back to Allah, the word for it in Arabic is Aba. And that is what he says his name comes from, Ayyub alayhi salam. That is Abdullah ibn Abbas' opinion. And of course, Abdullah ibn Abbas, like I mentioned to you, is one of the great scholars of the Sahaba and of the Quran. Al-Qurtubi mentions, Al-Qurtubi is a scholar of tafsir, one of the 5 major works of tafsir. One of those 5 is written by Al-Qurtubi, and it is it's a phenomenal work of tafsir. He used to live in Cordova, which used to be in Muslim Spain, and that's where he lived, and that's where he published his great works. He says in his tafsir that روي أن أيوب عليه السلام كان رجلا من الروم ذا مال عظيم وكان برا تقيا رحيما بالمساكين. It is narrated that Ayyub alayhi salam was a person from the Roman Empire. This is an expression to describe somebody who is of Caucasian origin. Okay, he had a lot of wealth. He was wealthy, and he was a righteous man who was very good to the poor, and he would take care of the orphans and the widows. وَيُكْرِمُ الضَّيْفَ وَيُبَلِّغ الْإِبْنَ السَّبِيلِ شَاكِرًا لِأَنْعُمِ اللَّهِ. He would take care of the orphans, he would take care of the widows, he would take care of, he would honor his guests, he would, people who were stranded, he would make sure that they reach home. That was a big deal back in the day, even today, but back in the day it was a huge deal. Somebody is stranded in a land, but that's not their land. Oftentimes it would be very, very disastrous, that situation. But taking someone who's stranded and making them reach home was a very, very gracious act back in the day, and even today, alhamdulillah, we consider it to be an amazing thing. So he was that Ayyub alayhi salam. Now, interesting, the reason why I'm mentioning this is that Ayyub alayhi salam, we want to talk about this particular aspect of his life because it tells us that it wasn't that Ayyub alayhi salam, it wasn't that he was somehow doing something bad. You see, it wasn't that he was doing something that was unacceptable. He was doing the best that you can expect of a person. He was taking care of the orphans. He was taking care of the widows. He was providing for those who needed support. He would make those who were stranded, he would make sure that they would reach their homes. All, good things. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him with a very, very difficult calamity. And that tells us that that a person is not punished by trials and tests. That's not what it means. If a person is a good Muslim and something bad happens to them, that doesn't mean that all the good that they were doing was for nothing. In fact, the contrary, the good that they were doing This is a way for Allah to see how real is this person's devotion and how serious they are in their commitment to their Lord. Um, that is an important introduction, and I wanted to mention that for this reason. Allah says about this, about Prophet Ayyub, as I mentioned to you in the story or in the Surah of Anbiya, Surah Anbiya, he says, remember our servant Ayyub when he called out to his Lord that harm has touched me, and you are the most merciful of all people who have mercy. Now, what's interesting about Ayub, as described by the scholars of tafsir like Ibn Kathir, is that he was afflicted. He was a person who had money, he had uh, a family, he had health, he had all the things that you could ask for. He had it all, and this is a person who was a righteous man, helping whoever he can help, being the best that he can be. Ibn Kathir says, فَابْتُلِيَ فِي ذَلِكَ كُلِّهِ. Everything that he had, he was tested in it. وَذَهَبَ عَنْ آخِرِهِ. ثُمَّ ابْتُلِيَ فِي جَسَدِهِ. He first was tested, according to Ibn Kathir, where his kids starting to pass away. His kids passed away. And then his wealth started to lose its value. He started to lose some of his wealth. Of course, you can imagine a person losing a family will have devastating effects on their livelihood. Then he started to lose his health. ثم ابتلي في جسده. يقال بالجذام في سائر بدنه. It was said that he had leprosy in his entire body. Others say that he had a type of a disease that would make the skin irritable to the point where the skin and the flesh started to peel off. ولم يبق منه سليم سوى قلبه ولسانه. The only thing that remained sound and healthy was his heart and his tongue. Meaning he was essentially paralyzed, but he could speak, and his faculties of reasoning and his spiritual heart remained intact. Okay, so he says, Ibn Kathir, يذكر بهم الله عز وجل يذكر بهم الله عز وجل حتى عافاه الجليس وأفرد في ناحية من البلد ولم يبقى من الناس أحد يحنو عليه سوى زوجته وكانت تقوم بأمره. Ibn Kathir says that he would remember Allah even in the state he was he lost everything. He lost basically all his family and also his friends and support circle. The one who stayed with him is his wife, and she would support him, she would take care of him. And that is a very important lesson for us, that as a couple, as spouses, we have to like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us the dua ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. O our Lord, هب لنا, grant us the gift, grant us the enormous blessing of spouses and kids that are قرة أعين, that are the coolness of eyes, meaning that they are so incredible that we cry tears of happiness due to them, not tears of sadness. They don't bring anguish and pain, they bring joy and happiness to our lives. That is what we are instructed to make dua for, a very beautiful dua we should make at all opportunities that we can make dua at. And this is an example. The Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, his wife, she was like that for him. And as we'll see from the story, he cared deeply for her as well. This is how our Prophet ﷺ was. He would take care, he loved his wife Khadija radiallahu anha, and Khadija loved him very, very much. She was the one who supported him as he started his work of da'wah. We have the example of Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam, before he goes to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says to his family, إِذْ قَالَ لِأَهْلِهِ إِنِّي I see a fire. He says to Sani, Umkuthu, stay here. I see a fire. I'm going to go and see if I could bring back something to warm us up. Again, ensuring that his family, his wife, is safe, taken care of before he would go on and do something else. This is how we're taught to be. That's how our prophets were. And this is we see from the life of Ayyub alayhi salam as well, that the person who stuck around with him was his wife. And she's the one who cared for him. Now, as he is afflicted by sickness to the point where he is basically paralyzed, also to the point where he actually, before even that, had lost his wealth, most of it or all of it, and lost his kids, passing away of his kids. Here is a man who you would expect to be, extremely like torn, and a person who would be resentful, person who would be frustrated and angry. But subhanallah, like the scholars of tafsir mention, and like Allah mentions more than anybody else, he was the one who would فَأَحْسَنَ الذِّكْر, despite his situation, he would remember Allah and be very, very good in his remembrance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would really excel in remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His sickness lasted a while. Okay, there is some difference among the historians of how long was he sick. Al-Hasan al-Basri says he was sick for 7 years and some months. Others say that he was sick for about 3 years. Others say he was sick for something between that time frame. Some say a little bit before that. Irrespective of how many years, it was years, and it was a severe trial, and it was a situation that left this man with nothing. Like, he's just literally, this man has got nothing left. Yet he is demonstrating gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet he is demonstrating patience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that long extended period. The lesson for us here is that patience is not just like a fleeting thing. We are patient for a few moments and then we're not. Or we're grateful for a few moments and then we're not. It's a patience, and gratitude is a state of mind. And that's what our Prophet taught us. That's what Ayyub alayhi salam is teaching us. That it is a state of mind, and it extends as long as the difficulty extends. That's how it's supposed to be. It is narrated, for example, his wife asked him, Ya Ayyub, law da'awta rabbaka yufarrij anka. She asked him, O Ayyub, as narrated by Ibn Kathir in his book of tafsir, that, O Ayyub, why don't you ask your Lord to, provide you with some relief? Look at his response. He says, I have lived 70 years sound and healthy. قَدْ عِشْتُ سَبْعِينَ سَنَةً صَحِيحًا. I have lived for 70 years sound and healthy. فَهَلْ قَلِيلٌ لِلَّهِ أَنْ أَصْبِرَ لَهُ سَبْعِينَ سَنَةً. Is it too little for the sake of Allah that I am patient and happy with what He has decreed for me for 70 years? Is that too much to ask? That's an amazing mindset. It's an amazing mindset that I have enjoyed so many blessings. Is it too much for me to be patient for a little bit of time? That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what that's what's highlighted about him here from his statement, that it's that mindset. For us, bringing it back to like reality, this is a hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to live. Very easy to say, we are, essentially all of us are in a lockdown situation. The masajid are closed. It's a, you can't go anywhere. It's a very difficult situation everybody's dealing with. But let's try to have the mindset of Ayyub alayhi salam. He's like, look, I was healthy for all these years. Is it too much to ask that I be patient for a few? That's the attitude. We've been normal and healthy for so much and so long. We have so many, almost countless, not almost, in fact, countless blessings that we enjoy. Is it too much for us to be patient in these moments as we're dealing with something really, really serious? Is it too much to ask? That's the mindset. that Ayyub alayhi salam possessed. And that, inshallah, is hopefully the mindset that we take away from his story and we try to implement and live up to it. It's not easy, and it's going to be fluctuating. Sometimes we'll be, in this excellent mindset. Sometimes we'll be a little off. But irrespective, like Ayyub alayhi salam's name, Aba ilallah, turning back to Allah, trying to recalibrate our priorities, referencing Allah again, putting Him front and center. That's kind of what we need to do, even after maybe we've had some slip ups and some frustration. The point is, these stories are a reminder for us to help us get back on track. It is narrated by Ibn Kathir that Iblis came to the wife of Ayyub. He is, again recapping, he was a healthy man, wealthy man with his family. His life has been turned upside down, losing his wealth, losing his family, and then losing almost entirety of his body to a sickness that has made him paralyzed. The only one who's with him is his wife, and this is dragging on for many years. This is dragging on for many years. It's not a small sickness for a few weeks and it's over. People are deserting him. His wife is working to support him now. She would go and service people's homes and get paid, and from that money she would purchase food for Ayyub alayhi salam and bring it to him to feed him, and purchase whatever medicine she could provide for him. But she had to work to support her husband in this really difficult moment. Now, as she is going through the stress and difficulty, Shaitan wanted to take advantage of that. And that is what often Shaitan does. He finds us in a moment of weakness and whispers to us to incite us. So here, in this case, it was even more than a whisper. Here, the devil himself, Iblis, ataha fi suratin or fi surati tabib. He comes to her in the form of a doctor. Now he says to her that your husband has been sick for many years. فإن أراد أن يبرئ فليأخذ ذبابا فليذبحه باسم صنم بني فلان فإنه يبرأ ويتوب بعد ذلك. Here's Iblis, the devil himself, disguised as a doctor, saying to this woman who is, going through a lot, that your husband's been sick for a long time. Why doesn't he? If he was to do this, his sickness is gonna go away. He will be cured. What is it? Take a fly and sacrifice this fly in the name of this idol. And once he is cured, just make tawbah afterwards. What's the big deal? So Ayyub's wife takes this information back to Ayyub, and she says, this is what happened. فَقَالَ قَدْ أَتَاكِ الْخَبِيثِ. He said, the evil one has come to you. The filthy one has come to you. He's talking about the devil. Okay? He sees through the plan. And he's like, no, we will not compromise our faith. Even a smidgen, our aqidah, our belief, we will not compromise even a smidgen of it. We will not introduce even a smidgen of shirk just to somehow get rid of some difficulty. Firstly, there's no guarantee. It doesn't do anything. There's no relationship. But even if there was, we will not take shirk as like our exit strategy from a difficulty. We will be patient until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for us a cure or provides for us a way out. So he sees through this plan and he tells this to his wife. But as I mentioned to you earlier, all of us have slip-ups and errors, and here was a slip-up from Ayyub alayhi salam. He says to his wife that I swear by Allah, alayya, that it's a swear that I'm taking an oath by Allah that if I am cured, then I am going to lash you 100 times. Okay. Now she continues to support him. She continues to provide for him. Now her situation is getting worse. She's not able to find work. She's not able to find people that will hire her, and then she can earn money to support her husband. وَخَافَتْ عَلَى أَيُّوبَ الْجُوعِ. She started to feel that they're going to starve. So now she decided to shave off her head. حَلَقَتْ مِنْ شَعْرِهَا قرنا فباعته. She shaved off a small piece of her hair and she sold it to some women who desired it, who wanted it, and that money she took and she was able to provide food for her husband. Okay, and her hair was valuable, so she was able to get a lot of money, and thus she was able to purchase food of good quality. Ayyub alayhi salam saw that, and he was wondering, how did the quality of food all of a sudden get an upgrade? Min aina laki hadha? But she doesn't answer the question directly. She kind of just beats around the bush a little bit, doesn't give him a straight answer. Then she continued to do that. She continued to shave off her hair until basically all of her hair was gone. And at that point, Ayub realized something is up. And he said, I'm not going to eat anything until you tell me, how did you get this money and how did you purchase this food? And then she took off her khimar, her hijab. And that is when Ayub alayhi salam saw his wife having to sacrifice so much for him, serving him, providing for him, taking care of his sickness. And now, because she can't find work, she has sold her hair. She has shaven off her head and sold her hair for the sake of buying food for him. And that is when he was very, very saddened. He's very saddened that his wife has to suffer so much. And at that point, like Ibn Kathir says, فَعِنْدَ ذَلِكَ دَعَى رَبَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. At that point, he makes dua to Allah, Oh Allah, harm has touched me and you are the most merciful or merciful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the cure for Ayyub alayhi salam in Surah Sad, Surah number 38. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes what takes place afterwards. He says about Ayyub alayhi salam, let me share the screen with you all. All right, he says, وَاذْكُرْ عَبْدَنَا أَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الشَّيْطَانُ بِنُصْبٍ وَعَذَابٍ. Bring to mind our servant Job, who cried to his Lord, Satan has afflicted me with distress and suffering. And this is perhaps a reference not just to the sickness that he had experienced, because the source of sickness, good and bad, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also, like I mentioned, the story of Iblis trying to misguide his wife, causing him much distress. So now he is turning to Allah and asking Allah for help and support. What does Allah say? Urkud birijlik hada mughtasalun baridun wa sharab. Stamp your foot. Here is cool water for you to wash in and drink. This was a miracle that Allah gave him, a spring that was cool, that he would wash himself with and he would drink, and that restored his body, miraculous cure, and restored his health fully. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ أَهْلَهُ وَمِثْلَهُم مَّعَهُم رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِندِنَا وَرَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَذِكْرَى لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. We restored his family to him, doubling their number as an act of grace from us. And as a reminder for all who are endowed with insight. Shaykh As-Sa'di rahimahullah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually brought back his kids to life as a miracle, because his recovery was a miracle, miraculous recovery, and also the loss that he had experienced, Allah miraculously brought them back to life. And in fact, he doubled the number of his family, and he doubled the wealth that he had lost. Everything he had lost, Allah gave him back to him and doubled it for him. And this was done وَذِكْرَى لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, as a reminder for those who are endowed with insight. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying he was patient for all this time, and the fruit of his patience in the akhirah is amazing and is going to be untouched. But even look in the dunya, the fruit of his patience, that whatever he had lost, he got back and doubled. Can you imagine what's going to be the fruit of his patience in the akhirah? Rahmatan minna wa dhikra li ulil albab, as a reminder for all those who are endowed with insight. He says, وَخُذْ بِيَدِكَ ضِغْثًا فَاضْرِبْ بِهِ وَلَا تَحْنَثْ. He says, take a handful of twigs in your hand and strike with that, but don't break your oath. What was this? What is this ayah referring to? That was the oath that he took when he made that error, that he slipped up, alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want him to nullify the oath that he had taken, because taking an oath is a big deal. And as a believer, we're actually taught to keep our word. We're taught to be very, very vigilant in keeping up our promises and being true to our word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him that take a handful of twigs and then touch that to your wife, and that would be the expiation. That will be like you fulfilling your oath. Inna wajadnahu sabira. We found him to be steadfast, patient. He was able to withhold himself. Whatever difficulties he was going to, by and large, mostly, almost entirely, he was able to hold himself and not let his emotions get the best of him. That's what sabr actually means. Inna wajadnahu sabira. Ni'mal abd. What an excellent servant. Innahu awwab. He was one who constantly turned to his Lord. So this is again that passage from Surah Sad, where Allah describes the final end of his story and how he was saved from the difficulty that he was in, alayhi salam. A few concluding thoughts about what we can learn from the story of Ayyub alayhi salam. Number one, I'll give you actually three things here. Number one, Ayyub alayhi salam was, a person going through extended sickness, extended difficulty. People going through extended difficulty, extended sickness are going to say things that they will regret down the road. That's just the nature of things. This is a great prophet of Allah, a prophet of exemplary patience, yet he ended up slipping a little bit. And Allah mentions this story in Surah Sad as a reminder to us that this is going to happen. If it can happen to the best of people, the prophets, it can most definitely and definitely will happen to people who are much lower than them. So we have to be understanding and patient and not be so quick to lose our patience with people who are suffering through an extended period of illness and sickness, whether that is physical illness or mental illness. We have to be understanding that this is a person going through quite a bit. So that has to be kept in mind. That bigger picture should never be lost track of. Number one. Number two is you look at the dua of Ayyub alayhi salam. The dua of Ayyub alayhi salam is amazing. Here you have in Surah Anbiya, actually, the surah that I began with, here he is actually making dua to Allah. Rabbi anni masani ad-dur wa anta arhamur rahimin. Okay, notice in this passage, in this surah Anbiya, actually, Allah mentions the stories of prophets and prophets in distress making dua to him. Okay, look a little bit later. وَذَنُّونِ إِذْ ذَهَبَ مُغَاضِبًا فظن أن لن نقدر عليه فنادى في الظلمات أن لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. Remember the man in the whale, that is Yunus alayhi salam, Jonah, who cried out in the darkness, لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. The very beautiful dua of Yunus alayhi salam, there is no deity but you, O Allah, glory be to you, I was indeed wrong. Also Zakaria alayhi salam, his dua, remember Zachariah when he called out to his Lord, Rabbi la tathamni fardan wa anta khayrul warithin, don't leave me heirless, you are the best of heirs, because he didn't have a child to carry on his work. This surah is actually describing prophets making dua in times of difficulty after prolonged tests, like Ayyub alayhi salam, after patience that was a lifetime of patience. Zakaria alayhi salam had his whole life, he was being patient and making dua for a child, and then now Allah gives him the child. It was a very long time coming, but the time it was coming for sure. فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ. It was coming for sure. Um, the dua of the prophets is mentioned in this beautiful surah. It's a very fascinating passage. That tells us is that the prophets of Allah, their dua wasn't like an instant, like microwave meal. Right away the answer came and boom, everything is fixed. It took a while. It took, consistent calling to Allah, beseeching Allah, being patient while the answer didn't come yet, being certain that the answer is coming. Never ever thinking for a minute that, oh, my dua is gone unheard, or Allah doesn't hear, or there is no concept of dua. Not for a single moment would that thought ever cross their lives or their minds. And their reality was never anything except Allah will answer 100%. And Allah will take us out of this difficulty 100%. That was their mindset the entire time. And that is for us a lesson on how to make dua, being patient in our dua. We can ask Allah for help immediately. That's okay. We can be asking Allah for immediate relief, but patient with how He executes His plan. Because He is the one who's Qadir. He is the one who has the power to execute His plans, not us. The dua of Ayyub also is very amazing in its wording. Look at the amazing wording of his dua. If I could share my screen again with you here. Rabbi anni masani ad-dur wa anta arhamur rahimin. I have been afflicted by distress. Masani is actually, the translation doesn't do justice actually here. Massa is to touch. It's like just harm has touched me. I'm not complaining about my situation, oh Allah. I'm not trying to be ungrateful. I'm not trying to forget all the great things you've given me and all the amazing blessings I have enjoyed in life. I'm not forgetting any of that. But I'm in trouble. وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And you are the one who is the most merciful of all merciful. I have never lost my hope. I have never forgotten that you are the most loving, the most caring, the most merciful. Amazing how his dua is. As-Sa'di says, أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الدُّرْ. He is making tawassul. The Ayyub alayhi salam is seeking out Allah, reaching to Allah by two ways. And that's like an amazing way to reach out to Allah. Or a combination of two things, when put together, is an amazing way to reach out to Allah. Number one, he expresses how weak he is. Anni massani ad-dur. Oh Allah, I am, I can't do anything. And number two, wa anta arhamur rahimin. And you are the one who is perfect. You have the perfect love, the perfect mercy. Your plan is perfect. Never doubting for a minute any of those things. The combination of these two is an incredible way to reach out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dua of Ayyub alayhi salam demonstrates that really, really aptly. Lastly, the last concluding remark, make the third of the three concluding remarks, is Ayyub alayhi salam it was a person going through a extended period of sickness, and his wife supported him through and through. SubhanAllah, she was an incredible support. We're taught by the Prophet ﷺ that the person who goes to visit a sick person, ma min muslimin ya'udu musliman, a person who is Muslim visiting another sick Muslim person, غدوة إلا صلى عليه 70,000 ملك حتى يمسي. 70,000 angels pray for that person as this person goes to visit their sick Muslim brother or sister. 70,000 angels, and that's for the whole day until it's evening. And if this person does so in the evening, in the nighttime, they will continue praying likewise 70,000 until it's morning. That is a huge number, an incredible number of angels making dua just for the mere simple action of visiting a person who is sick. Nothing more than that. Just visiting them, saying salam to them, uplifting their spirits, making dua for them. Just that simple act earns such a humongous reward from the side or in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How much more amazing and how uncountable will be the reward of the person who's there day in and day out, hour by hour, with a sick person taking care of them. How uncountable is their good deeds. How many, angels are praying for them. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of angels are praying for them because they're taking care of a sick person. That is something we should not forget, especially those of us who are in the tough spot to take care of a sick relative, a sick family member. Don't think that that person is holding you back. Don't think that that sick individual, that ill individual is holding you back from something greater. You are in fact doing something incredibly, incredibly great, and the reward that you're earning, there is no count for it. The amount of angels that are praying for you, almost uncountable. Subhanallah. So don't think that this is a really terrible situation. لا تحسبوه شرا لكم بل هو خير لكم. Don't think if it's something that's bad. Think that there is good in it, inshallah. That is the mindset that we should have when it comes to supporting our people, our family members, those who are going through difficulties. Of course, during COVID-19, we cannot visit somebody who's sick. We can't even visit people who are healthy. So there are other ways to reach out to them, such as sending them a message, giving them a call, email, whatever way works. Reaching out to somebody who's suffering is a very, very important thing, inshallah. With that, we will conclude the session for today. The story of our Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, how he suffered, he lost a lot, he lost not a lot, you can say he lost everything in a way, yet he remained thankful, yet he remained hopeful, yet he was one who remained in a situation that Allah is going to take care of him. His wife was there supporting him, providing for him, being by his side, and his wife's sacrifice ultimately spurred him to ask Allah for relief, to bring on the relief. And this is a beautiful story from so many aspects. We ask Allah to give us the understanding of the Quran and Sunnah and to implement it in our lives. Just a note for next Saturday. Next Saturday, inshallah, we have a zakat workshop. Same time, same place. Time is 8 p.m., but I think Maghrib will be around exactly 8 p.m. or a little bit into our session. So what I'll do is I'll log in before Maghrib, and then we'll start the session after Maghrib Salah, and we will discuss zakat, how to calculate it, and whatnot, because Ramadan is coming up, and Ramadan is the time usually when people give their zakat. So please stay tuned to that, inshallah. It will be nice to have you for that as well. Jazakumullahu khairan. If there's any questions or comments, I can take them now. I will check the Facebook page to see if there's any questions there. I don't see any questions on the Facebook page either. So I'm assuming, inshallah ta'ala, that everything is good. Barakallahu feekum. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll see you all next week. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.